Have you ever wondered where your data goes? What happens to all those digital breadcrumbs you leave behind every single day? For Alex, a gifted but reclusive coder, this wasn't just a fleeting thought, it was an obsession. He wasn't a criminal. He was a digital explorer, driven by a deep-seated curiosity about the vast, invisible networks that govern modern life. He believed that understanding the system was the first step to securing it. His latest project was his most ambitious yet, a deep dive into the country's centralized public data network. He spent weeks, then months, deciphering firewalls and bypassing security protocols, not to steal or disrupt, but simply to see. He wanted to understand the architecture, the flow of information, the very digital soul of the nation. Late one night, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the glow of his monitors, he finally broke through. It wasn't a dramatic crash, but a quiet, almost anticlimactic slip into the system's core. He had accessed the master database. At first, he was just an observer, marveling at the sheer scale of it all. Birth certificates, tax records, medical histories, the entire life story of millions reduced to lines of code. To test the depth of his access, he searched for his own name, Alex Ryder. His file popped up instantly. Everything seemed normal at first, his birth date, his address, his academic records. But then he noticed something strange. A secondary file, linked to his primary one, but encrypted with a level of security he'd never seen before. It was a digital ghost, a shadow profile. His heart began to pound. This wasn't standard procedure. With trembling fingers, he ran his most sophisticated decryption algorithms. Hours felt like minutes as the code slowly unraveled. When the file finally opened, a chill ran down his spine. It was a perfect copy of his identity, his biometrics, his digital signatures, everything. But attached to it was a horrifying ledger. A series of high-level financial crimes, corporate espionage, and data breaches, all meticulously planned and executed. The dates lined up with times he was verifiably at home, at work, or with friends. Someone had created a digital clone of him and was using it to commit perfect, untraceable crimes. His own identity had been weaponized against the world, and he was the prime suspect. Panic set in. This was bigger than anything he could have imagined. He wasn't just a curious hacker anymore. He was a ghost in someone else's machine, a puppet whose strings were being pulled to orchestrate chaos. The system he had so eagerly wanted to understand had turned him into its unwilling villain. He scanned the transaction logs, the IP addresses, the digital fingerprints left by his doppelganger. The trail was a masterpiece of misdirection, a labyrinth designed to lead investigators straight to the real Alex Ryder. Every piece of evidence was a nail in his coffin. He felt a wave of nausea. Who would do this? And why him? He was a nobody, a coder in a small apartment. There was no logic to it. His first instinct was to go to the police. He had to clear his name. He frantically started downloading the evidence, the encrypted files, the transaction logs, the phantom IP addresses, anything that could prove his innocence. He copied everything onto a secure, heavily encrypted drive. He knew it was a long shot. Walking into a police station and saying, "Hi, I'm a hacker, and I found evidence that a digital ghost of me is committing crimes," sounded like the ravings of a lunatic. But what other choice did he have? His life was no longer his own. He was a fugitive in his own identity. He had to try. He threw on a hoodie, grabbed the encrypted drive, and slipped out of his apartment building, his eyes darting around nervously. Every shadow seemed to be watching him. The short walk to the police station felt like crossing a war zone. His mind raced, rehearsing what he would say, how he would present the impossibly complex evidence to a detective who probably still used a flip phone. As he rounded the corner, the police station came into view. A sense of relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. Plastered on a notice board right by the entrance was a large, bold poster. And on that poster was his face. Underneath his picture, in capital letters, were the words, "Wanted, armed, and dangerous." His blood ran cold. It was too late. They already thought he was guilty. His digital clone hadn't just been committing crimes. It had been building a case against him, painting him as a master criminal. He saw two officers standing near the entrance, one of them glancing from the poster to the street. Their eyes met. For a split second, the world stood still. Recognition flashed in the officer's eyes. "Hey, stop right there," the officer yelled, his hand immediately going to his side. Adrenaline surged through Alex like an electric shock. Fight or flight kicked in, and there was no fight to be had. He spun around and ran. He didn't know where he was going. He just ran. The sounds of shouts and sirens erupted behind him. The city's alarm bells announcing the start of a nationwide manhunt for a man who didn't exist. He sprinted through alleys and jumped over fences, his lungs burning. He was a ghost being chased by the law, a scapegoat for a faceless puppeteer. Every news report, every police alert would be about him. His face would be everywhere. He was a hacker, a digital phantom. But now he was forced to navigate the physical world as a fugitive. The lines between the real and the digital had blurred completely, and he was trapped in the terrifying space in between. He was alone, hunted, with only a drive full of unbelievable data as his sole ally. He had to find the person who stole his life, the true criminal hiding behind his face. But how can you hunt a ghost when you've become one yourself? The manhunt was relentless. His face was on every news channel, his name a headline on every website. Cyber terrorist Alex Rider at large, they screamed. The public was fed a narrative of a brilliant but rogue hacker who had turned against the society he was sworn to protect in some fictional backstory they created. He was a myth, a monster. Alex moved through the city like a wraith, using his skills to stay one step ahead. He hacked into public Wi-Fi networks just long enough to monitor the news and the police dispatches, always on the move, never sleeping in the same place twice. He ate out of vending machines and slept in abandoned buildings, the encrypted drive his only companion. He was an analog fugitive in a digital world he once commanded. His only hope was to fight fire with fire. He had to use his skills not to hide, but to hunt. From the darkest corners of the web, he began his own investigation. He started tracing the untraceable, following the digital breadcrumbs his doppelganger had so carefully laid out to frame him. He worked from burner phones and compromised library computers, building a new, hidden identity to move through the network. He discovered the crimes were more than just financial. They were strategic attacks on infrastructure, on political figures, on the very stability of the country. This wasn't just a thief. It was a ghost with a grand, terrifying agenda. And Alex was the perfect fall guy. He was close to a breakthrough, piecing together fragments of code and whispers from dark web forums. When his world tilted again, he tracked a faint signal to a shadowy organization known only as Janus, a group rumored to be a private intelligence agency for hire, selling chaos to the highest bidder. Were they the ones pulling the strings? As he dug deeper, he realized they were hunting him too, not with police, but with their own agents. He was caught in the middle, a pawn in a game far larger than he could have ever imagined, hunted by both the law and the lawless. His journey to clear his name had become a war on two fronts. Will he be able to unmask the real criminals behind Janus and prove his innocence to a world that sees him as a villain? Or will he be silenced forever, taking the fall for another's perfect crime, his identity erased and replaced by the monster they created? Like, share, and subscribe for more high-stakes crime stories.